we just grow and expand ourselves here on this earth while at the same time, growing vertically and ascension and that sort of thing as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a both and.
Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome everybody to the Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. I'm so grateful to be with you. We've got an incredible guest today, and it is a subject near and dear to my heart, my wonderful children. And although they're a bit older now, 18 and above, I still, they're my kids, you know? We always tell them, you're our babies for life at one level. So, yeah. So anyway, I appreciate parent experts, are helping with that. And she's more than that, but she's going to help you with that struggle we have sometimes with our kids of how to navigate the storms, right? The things that coming at us when they're teenagers. I got an 18-year-old, and she's wonderful, and yeah, they're teenagers, right? So there's stuff that comes up, and how do we navigate that? How do we evolve consciously with everything that unfolds with being a parent? And so I know she has many wonderful things to share. So, Micheline, I'm grateful to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Love your enthusiasm.
Yeah, I'm grateful to have you on today, and um, so I'm just really looking forward to hearing more. I know you're an integral master coach, which is really cool, right? Like that's not a lot of people that are of that designation, I don't believe, right? Is that
Oh,
true?
no, that's right.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't gone deep with his materials, but I appreciate what he's offering, though. So
Yes. So you're referring to Ken Wilber, the
right,
founder,
right.
yes, the philosopher behind integral theory. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yes.
a very big, comprehensive theory of human development, which Ken Wilber synthesized during his time at Harvard in the 60s. He actually went to Harvard to study artificial intelligence, and when he got there, he
Oh.
quickly realized, wait a second, why are we looking at artificial intelligence when we really haven't even tapped into our true human intelligence? And so he actually started creating this theory, started coming to him, and he boldly calls it the theory of everything because he took Eastern philosophies and he brought it together with the Western psychologies. And so it really is a very comprehensive theory of human development. And I really use it, of course, working with my clients and the ways, the many different lenses and complexities of who we are as humans to really support my clients to grow and expand, not in a vertical way. Like most people are always like, I got to get to the next level. And there's no, there's levels, but there's also expanding horizontally as well. How do we just grow and expand ourselves here on this earth while at the same time, growing vertically and ascension and that sort of thing as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a both and, yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, I love all of that. That's so all right on target with the things I've been thinking about up to and guests I've had on too,
Yeah.
touching on the different, we had two different AI type of, experts, one that's in the AI industry and another, it's a thought leader now as well. And then I got another one that's a thought leader that's tapping into the AI industry and it's talking about the importance of us evolving. And that's something I'm a big rant on
Mhm. Mhm.
myself is like,
Yeah.
okay, you want to optimize the AI. What about optimizing yourself first? Like,
Yeah.
we haven't even come close, even scratch the
Yeah.
surface on that one. So why don't
Yeah.
we start there first? That's a big bias I have. Some people would say, oh, it's both. And I'm like, yeah, but, first it's like, I think like it's a tool, I'm a little anti-AI, and yet I totally embrace it another level, right? I'm both. I'm all of it. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, if you guys only use it as a tool, we're going to do great. But it looks like we're giving our energy and power away to such things and all the other stuff we have already been doing, right?
Yeah.
To the feeds on social media, or whatever, all the different distractions we have from the ability to, yeah, to evolve, to ascend, but also to even personally develop here as a human, right here on this plane. So I feel like
Yeah.
the opportunity of the technology bombarding us is actually an opportunity to get stronger, if we use it for that, right? To get stronger. In other
Mhm.
words, like learning to refrain. Oh, it's so hard. I need to go back to my feed. No, like strengthen yourself, right? Or I need to
Mhm.
use the AI on this one. No, like no one's coming to save your ass, as they say. Like
Yeah.
it might seem like it did, but like that's not really where it's at in your ascension, in your, personal development or whatever, however you want, all the different levels. And
Yeah.
so I think like that's, we've got to be so cognizant. It's just a tool. We want to teach our kids more about that. Kids are always pushing back because they're all want to just develop want to be with the technology, right? But like,
Mhm.
come on, put on the brakes, and and if some of them can hear us, and I think like if we're just willing to share with them and have, it's okay, like one of the things, people don't always agree with me, that's for sure. That's okay. Like, I think it's, I'm sure you have the same situation. Like, it's okay. We need to have conversations where people don't agree and just hold the heart space, the love, right? The frequency of love that you are an ambassador for so much. And I think
Mhm.
we can navigate all these things as long as we keep coming back to the heart space, keep having the challenging discussions with our teenagers, our kids about these topics, right? So I don't know. That's what all comes to me to share.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate that very much. And, we talk a lot about AI, and I know it's a great big fear for many people. And, it is going to reflect back to you. It really is a mirror and a tool, like you said,
Yeah.
and it's going to reflect back to you what you feed it.
Mm,
And we are all, as humans, in this current cultural paradigm that we're in, we are all kind of trained to look outside of ourselves for answers. So if it's not a book, then it's going to be on Instagram, or then it's going to be the expert, or then it's going to be the next guru, or the next teacher, or the next and the next and the next. And so AI is just the next iteration of looking for those answers outside of ourselves. But as you, I'm sure, know, Daniel, as I know, and probably many of your listeners, because they're listening to the spiritual rock star, everything comes back to the answers are deeply within us. As great and as wide and as vast as this universe is, it is equally mirrored in the depth and the complexity and the capacity within inside of ourselves. So one thing I talk about in my book, which is titled the Leadership Parenting, it's a book written for specifically, purpose-driven, high capacity women who are in positions of leadership, who are really, have proven and exceeded in these powerful positions, but they're also the mothers at home.
mhm,
And so they have this real dual relationships, both at work and in these kind of traditionally, and I'll say that traditionally because we're in the very much changing that, but traditionally male, spaces, but yet they're also mothering at home. And this is a really important concept to bring up because I think we can all agree we would like to see more women in positions of leadership and power and in politics and in all these different avenues. And yet we can't forget that they are also mothers at home. So, what I've seen after 30 years of conscious parenting, and for the last 15 years, coaching executive leaders, leadership development, training coaches around the world, the skills that mothers have been doing at home in really healthy ways over millennial, right? They're exact same skills we need in the boardroom and in the leadership and in the CEO positions and in the C suites. So I'm really looking at the intersectionality between parenting and leadership and recognizing that we can no longer separate these two. We really have to start seeing them as one of the same, and how one of them is really the training ground for the other. And so in my book, Leadership Parenting, I talk about ancestral intelligence instead of the traditional AI, right?
mhm. Yeah.
We call it AI, artificial intelligence, but what about our ancestral intelligence? Because that's how parenting has been passed down for generation after generation after generation. It's through that ancestry line. And that's been cut off from us. Unfortunately, somewhere along the lines, I mean, we all have our theories, that ancestral intelligence has been cut off because we've been cut off from our very source, which is Mother Earth, which is our spirituality, and which is now showing up cut off from one another. As we can see out in the world, we're really such a divided, culture. And so ancestral intelligence is where I come back to. And so I looked around and saw that, across all, you know, um, religions, and not that I look at religion, but just, spiritual wisdom traditions, I would usually call that. There are three main universal principles. It's love, it's abundance, and it's unity. And if you look at our culture, we actually live, and I see this in myself, I've seen this in all of my clients. We live in the beliefs of fear, of separation, and of lack. So I was really curious, how could we actually bring greater consciousness to parenting as the dojo for leadership by helping parents to be, because it's about how you're being. It's not necessarily what you're doing, it's how you model love, abundance, and unity. And so, this is what I bring forth in the book, reconnecting with that ancestral intelligence, which is through the somatic, it's through the emotional, and it's through that deep embodiment of faith in the spiritual nature of life, in the spiritual intelligence of life, and then giving exact suggestions and ways of being so that love, abundance, and unity are modeled in our parenting.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today. So, what I know you, yeah, of course, you're a parent. So, and I did hear on one of the shows that, we've all been challenged as parents. So, you're self-confessed, like I was having some struggles along the way, right? And so tell us about the type of struggles that you've seen for yourself and other parents when it comes to, parenting using the ancestral AI or whatever,
Yeah,
ancestral intelligence, that AI, and bring that forth and tell us more about like some of those challenges. Because yeah, okay, love, unity, abundance. We all say we want that, right? But boy, we quickly go to fear, separation. You did
absolutely.
this, you did that, whatever, all the things, right? And
Yeah.
you don't understand, and all the rather than coming from a place of greater spaciousness, from a greater
Mhm.
sense of connection and whatnot. So yeah, so tell us
Yeah,
about that journey that you've
sure.
taken,
Yeah,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so, I guess I would really have to go back to my own childhood.
Mm,
That's really where I know that my sacred journey has brought me to where I am today on your podcast talking about leadership parenting.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it really started being a young person in a family of five. My mother was a very strong captain at the helm of the ship, for sure, with five kids. Plus, we were the family that had all the other kids in the neighborhood come and often had extra kids sleeping over or, having dinner and all of that sort of stuff. But what my parents couldn't see was the struggle that I was going through being a child that was sexually abused at a young age. I was a child who did not, none, children don't have the verbiage, right? Don't have the intellectual capacities to understand the chaos of what's going on inside of them with feelings and pain and struggle and all of that. And so I did like what every other child does is they act out. And any attention is good attention, right? So even if it's negative attention, at least I was getting that. And so I was really a child who could not be seen for the struggle that I was in. And so I think that's part of my sacred journey is that I have been a school counselor. I've worked with children who have really struggled in what we would consider like, the classroom settings or in the family and so that was where I started out in my work because I have a natural ability to support a child to recognize, understand, and be accepted for what they're feeling, even if it's chaos, confusion with inside of themselves, their inner world, really. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really, I think, why I'm on this path, you know.
Yeah.
But ultimately, then I was somebody who really needed to prove and push and, perform in life because I left home at a very young age. I left home at 16, and I left with, a great big perseverance and I'm going to show you and, this kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then sport saved my life truly because I played sport at an international level. I left home at 16, and by 19, I was playing for the Canadian women's rugby team, and I participated in two Rugby World Cups. So I am a fierce woman, a fearless woman, someone who had to prove and push in a very male-dominated sport to,
Mm-hmm.
to to bring that to light and to see that women could do this. And I think that's kind of the energy that a lot of the women that I work with have,
Mm-hmm.
pushing and proving and performing that they have a space in the C-suite, in the boardroom, in positions of power and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really is why I'm so connected to these women because they're so strong. And
Mm-hmm.
what I would love to support them with is to recognize that their strength doesn't just come from kind of that physical strength or that, pushing and proving strength, but actually our true strength as women is actually in the softness. It's in the tenderness. It's in the love that we have to
Mm-hmm.
be able to hold so much more, especially for our children. So yes, I had three kids. I was for a long time a stay-at-home mom. I was a homeschooling mom for a while. Then I was building my own counseling business while I had children, and then I went through a divorce. And through that divorce, I think my time homeschooling my kids was a big wake-up call for me because I had been a school counselor and I saw how much teachers struggled with children's behaviors, and I could really support teachers and children at that time. But then I became a homeschooling mom, and oh, there we go. There's all the same patterns I saw in teachers
Mm-hmm.
coming out in me.
Yeah.
Again, doubling down on you're going to, and you must, and you have to, and all the things I didn't believe in, but here I was doing it. So that was a big learning place for me to go, wait a second, why am I doing this when it's not what I even believe in? So again,
Right.
you ask big questions. Life has a way of showing up with really big answers. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn that process myself. And so much of that learning process was coming back to my own interior self, that inner universe that is really big, can be somewhat crazy, complex, scary, and really diving deep within myself to understand so much more of who I am, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to teach, everything I teach, I have been through myself. This is from a deeply lived experience. And so I've definitely struggled many times with my kids through that doubling down of control,
Mm-hmm.
trying to be the one in control. And if you just listen to me, then we'd all be okay.
Right.
You
Listen to
know?
mom, we're good.
Yeah. So I think that's a lot of what the women that I work with, these high capacity, purpose-driven women, they have a lot of power and control at the office, and people really respect them for how they show up. But come home, there's a lot of struggle with their kids because those same tools and skills they're using at the office don't translate to children at home. There's a whole other aspect of part of ourselves, this feminine, the invisible realm, the interior realm. There's so much more that we can build, which actually supports us to be our full selves, our whole selves. And that's where, as I'm sure you know, is where the true power lies.
All right. It's all part of the spiritual rock star moniker thing, right? Totally. Wow. Thanks for sharing all that. Wow. Yeah, I'm still back on the sexual abuse as well, like in this moment because uh, 90 maybe percent of the clients I've had over the years and like in all different capacities of clients, of course, and then it gets to be a lot, thousands of clients, but um so I've seen so many women where it's that way where the it's probably the majority, right? So there is some sexual abuse where there wasn't, even if they told their parents, right, about what
Yeah.
happened, usually it's not really addressed. It might even be, well, we don't believe that actually happened, even, if it was a family member, right? Like there's a questioning around it all. So maybe it's just you way you saw it, or whatever, like all kinds of different alternative ideas, because people don't, it's scary, for the parent to be able to face that or believe that could have happened to their child, right? So I think like that alone is a powerful subject we could really dive into. And I know there's women listening that are still, working with that, because that's all part of like, um, you're going to see me, you're going to know me fine, you're going to see the power of I am, right? I mean, really, I mean, for real. I mean, and the truth is, for me as a man who has not ever been abused in that way, and many men have, right? As you know, you've seen the research, right? But
Yep.
at the same time, whatever my traumas are, right? It's still the same pattern in me in a way of like, and when I was starting off with business, of like, okay, I've been a quiet guy, I've been holding back all this time. I've been watching how screwed up y'all are. Now here I come, like, and then, like the anger and yeah, think people that tell you, you're never make it, even, it's like,
Mhm,
all right,
mhm.
then I absolutely will. Then thank you. Like, and so yeah, I mean, I can relate to that anger is in my own way directly, and I see it definitely in women that have all the different kind of background, but including that one you said, I think that's really such a profound wound, to carry. It's a lifetime, really. Even if I cleared it or whatever, it's a lifetime thing, in my opinion. So I don't know how you see it, but that's what I've seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, I never spoke of it for 30 years. And then I had my own 7-year-old daughter. And that's when I realized, wait a second. Like, I could have never, ever have wanted that at 7 years old, because that was kind of the story I told myself for a long time. Oh, I must have wanted, or I must have made it happen, or I must have, right? And, of course, I was told to never, ever, 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 ever talk about it. And so I never, ever, ever, ever talked about it until
Mhm.
until I had my own daughter at 7 years old, and I realized. Now, it took a long time. It's a very long process. And for women out there who, aren't ready to start talking about it, it's a slow journey, and go at your own pace, because your own nervous system has to be constantly worked with. There's this deep somatic process, there's an emotional process, there's a psychological process. There's also a spiritual process, because once I started, I was a counselor. I mean, I can see all the things that were leading me along the way. I wasn't conscious of them, but of course, looking back, I'm like, oh, I went into child protection. Gee, I wonder why,
Right.
And I became a counselor, and then I worked with kids who weren't, fitting into school systems. Gee, I wonder why, right? Then I started working with teachers and parents, because I needed to help them see what the children were communicating. Gee, I wonder why. And now I've been working with, again, leaders and executives, and because they themselves are working with their own inner child. That is the work deep down inside. It's like we all have this child that did not get seen, did not get heard, or was ignored, or was, submitting themselves to the parents or the adults' free will, to their will, right? So this has been the journey that I've been on. And why I say it's a spiritual journey, because I've come to a place that I know it is my sacred journey. It has brought me to where I am right now. And what I'm doing right now, I don't claim to be a, sexual abuse trauma counselor or anything like that. But you're right. The more people who come and the more people who slowly open up, they are talking more and more about their traumas, which, of course, as a counselor, I can hold that space and capacity for. But that's not what I say, the work that I do. But
Mhm.
once we start witnessing, and this is what I come back to again and again, is, we all need that witness. We need the witness to see us as we are, in the messiest parts of ourselves and in the most beautiful parts of ourselves. And ultimately, that's all children want. When it comes down to it, a child wants to be seen, deeply, intimately seen, not judged, but seen, and truly know that they are accepted no matter how messy their big emotions are.
Hmm.
Now, I can say that about children, I can help parents with that, but ultimately, that's what any human being wants. Are you going to
Yeah.
love me even when you see my worst parts of me? The parts that I'm ashamed of, the parts that I'm afraid of, the parts that are ugly. That's what we all want. That's what we're all hoping our love interests are going to be able to hold.
Right,
But
right,
if we
right.
can't even hold that space for ourselves, and this is the process of slowly beginning to, what I do with my clients is helping them to work with the speed of their nervous system, because that's very important. It's titrating, right? To be able to open and expand and begin to honestly feel through the body. Again, another part of ourselves that we have been cut off from this, cultural paradigm we are in, right? We're cut off from our bodies, we're cut off from our emotions, and it's the emotions and the somatic that helps us to reconnect with the spiritual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. The whole thing of, I know you talk about intellect and intuition, and it's so funny. I just had another guest on that talks on that, and I never have people usually come in and talk about intellect and intuition. So I always look at everything as the mirror effect, right? Okay, I need to look at the interaction between my intellect and intuition a little closer right now. I find it always so fascinating, and so yeah, the intellect, the one of the things our past guest we just had on yesterday was that the intellect, holds, the conceptualization she gave is all conceptualization, right? But your past memories and everything, therefore the traumas, it's all informs like what the intellect believes about. Well, this is what would be the good thing to do here, smart or whatever, based on experience and whatnot.
Mm.
Whereas when we're able to get relaxed, get in the parasympathetic, be in a more on a whole, realize that inner child when it's not scared to death, it feels like wow, you actually love me. Wow. And then we relax, and then all of a sudden we're magical children again, right? Like, oh, I have all the answers. I just do one of these and those, and then let's have fun together, even. And, all that stuff is able to flow in. And, I think like that's one of the things too that's come up on the show recently is this whole deal of like, we because of traumas and because of conditioning and all this stuff, like we just learn not to be more in that spaciousness and playfulness, and we've many people have lost those capacities entirely, even almost. I mean, practically, right? And they have to learn to open back up to realize it's safe. You're not gonna like for me when I'm get goofy and everything. Most people like it, but then there's always somebody that's like what an idiot. What a goofball. Why are you laughing? Things like that. I remember real quick, I'll just say this, but like me and a few of my students that were at my event, this is years ago, we were out walking around doing magical things and stuff, having fun. And it says, okay, let's skip now. We're holding hands, we're skipping in a parking lot with a bunch of businesses. And so there's people outside on a smoke break or something. They're like, what are you guys doing? We're skipping, we're having fun. They're like, what? Why don't you join us? So we even said, they went running away from that. These nutcases, right? And like, this is actually like how an enlightened society would be. We would all be doing things like that, in my opinion. So yeah, it's a huge shutdown, and that totally affects the ability to be in a space where we can really connect with people, much less to be, connect with our children and to be able to connect with them and to raise them to be able to trust the, that aspect of themselves, the whatever you call it, the inner child, etc. Right? So, yeah, I think that's so wonderful that you help with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not sure you used the word intellect, and that's not a word that I used. So I'm wondering if you were referring to intelligence. That's a word that I would
Oh,
use,
it's
right?
more intelligence is how you put it.
Because
Saw
I see,
something to that
yeah,
effect in the show
yeah, yeah.
notes or the notes given to me. But yeah.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So there's something about, I just want to kind of clarify that for myself is,
Yeah.
right, we all have an intelligence working through us. We have,
Mhm.
and I think it's beyond us, of course, from that spiritual, there's so many other realms, right? And that intelligence moves through us. And then
Mhm.
what, of course, neuroscience is also backed up, our intelligence doesn't just live in our brains. Our intelligence has, our heart has an intelligence and our
Mhm.
gut has an intelligence. And so we have these three centers of intelligence. And again, this is part of my book, and what I'm teaching parents is how to reconnect to these centers of intelligence so that we can be more in alignment and more whole and living as these universal principles of love and abundance and unity. So intelligence is something that I definitely talk about. And then when you talked about intellect, I kind of went to like our cognitive. So we have this beautiful big brain, like we all have them, and they keep us alive, they keep us breathing, they keep us eating, they keep us procreating, all of the things we need to do as humans, and they're built for problem solving, right? Like, got a problem, fix it. Brain can put those linear steps into practice, but we also have this other part of the brain, the right side of the brain that has this holistic, you know, experiential, emotional capacity, right? The left and the right side of the brain. So again, this is another part that I bring into the book to really help parents recognize. And you were talking about skipping and playing. Like, you're right, we've lost that because we are a culture that overemphasizes the left side of the brain over the right side. So all of that intuition, holistic, emotional, like this is where as a woman, stereotypically or predominantly women carry, that right side of the brain capacity, but yet that's been diminished within us because out in the 3D world or material world, it's the left brain that gets rewarded. And so, therefore, I'm going to prove and push and persevere and linear and rational and logical, all of that beautiful left brain is rewarded and their right brain is diminished. And so when we're skipping and playing, especially with our kids, when I would, I playfully say, I lose my shit, and shit stands for your stress, your habits, your irritations, and your triggers. And every parent has lost their shit at some time. Whenever I was at that point, I could flip into creativity and playfulness, and I would just start a character. And my favorite character was the Wicked Witch of the West. Because I'd be
Love it.
like, you're going to eat your vegetables, little children. And of course, they'd laugh and I'd
Right.
laugh. And it
Right.
instantly releases the pressure and the tension that we all feel. And now I raised my kids. My son and my oldest is 30 and my youngest is 25. So this was 20 years ago.
Hmm.
That pressure in parents has only exponentially increased because of our external world and the speed and the complexity and the crises that we are facing. If we haven't gone within and reconnected our centers of our intelligence, our lefts and our right sides of our brain, then this pressure that so many of my clients and parents are feeling is it's really it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming and it's exhausting. And this is what I see when most of my clients come to see me. Again, they're high capacity women, but they are exhausted from carrying the energetic and the emotional load for everyone.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have my stepdaughter who's works a job. She likes to do extra things on the side to make some money in terms of business, kind of business sort of stuff. And she has two kids, young kids at home. And yeah, with all the weather currently at the time of this recording, like Well, there, guess what? Everything's shut down for the next week or so, and she's, you want to talk, the shit, losing your shit type of thing, like just not at her kids necessarily, but like inside of her. So she's, oh my God, how am I going to manage? They're going to be here every day. Like,
Uh,
it's challenging.
Very
It's
real.
really
It's
challenging.
very, very real, that pressure. Number one thing my clients will say is, I have no time. I have
Mm-hmm.
no time. That in and of itself, the relationship to time is one of the first things that we kind of work on.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as we believe we have no time, all we're going to see is we have no time. But the truth is, time is a relationship. Our relationship to time, it's a relationship. We can change that relationship by, again, the three centers of intelligence, the left and the right side of the brain, reconnecting to self. When we're in presence, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Daniel, as someone who works at the spiritual level, that deep presence, flow, time disappears. Time disappears. And it's amazing the results that my clients see and realize just by that first aspect of relooking at this relationship with time. Yeah.
Yeah, because time is mind, right? Is what they always say.
Yeah.
And you could say left versus right, right? But that's the left brain. Of course, both are good. It's just like it's been so, like you said, it is, in a sense, yeah, the overdevelopment and focus on the left brain that's makes it seem like we're demonizing it, but it's just like it's just been overused. It's like, let's give you a break, and when I do like energy parts work with people, like it shows up in that way, like we're just working so hard, we're tired, but we got to do it. We got to keep her safe or whatever, right? And it's like, well, what if the more creative, playful, or more expanded side came in? Oh, that'd be great, like thank you. And then you can always remind us if we forgot something or point us in the right direction here and there. We'd so value that, thank you. And so I think like that to me, that's how I see it with the left and the right brain stuff. I mean, it being psychology masters, whatever, and all that stuff, like that background, like, yeah, I mean, like I've been, aware of all the left right stuff for a long, long time. And the right brain, I think, like, thank God, is getting a lot of good press. It's like, oh my God, the creative side, let's go with that. But the conditioning's so strong on the left side. So it's like we have to just keep pumping up because I really believe like the world will value the right side of the brain, so to speak. Like it will totally like be so like valued and revered and in the world, in the physical world. But it's people like yourself, all of us, myself included too, right, that are going to help to see that happen. And so yeah, so thank you that you're helping with that and helping these leaders, these parent leaders that are also parents, and to do that because man, there's so much more possible, right? In their parenting, and then also in their businesses or where they work. So then,
Yeah, because ultimately, I say parents are the transformative leaders. They are creating the leaders of tomorrow.
yeah,
And so, in every way, in every moment, the way they show up, and this isn't about doing more. This is about being. This is an identity shift, the work that I do. And I don't, this is not about doing more. It's about I hold the field for them to come into their own initiation. A lot of my clients will say, I don't really understand what you do. And I'm like, well, then that's the sign that you're ready because you know you need it, but you can't quite see it because that's the different levels of consciousness that we can work at. And as
mhm,
soon as the field is there's a resonance of my experience and what I'm sharing, that's when people can hear it, that's when they're drawn to it, and that's when they're ready for that threshold. It's a threshold for a new upgrade of identity, is to put it in the most simplest terms, right? Because
right,
once you're able to build greater capacities within inside of yourself, not just cognitively, so I'm going to bring it back to integral theory. I'm looking at multiple lenses as who we are as a human: cognitive, social, somatic, emotional, interpersonal, moral development, right? Not to mention our levels of consciousness, the perspectives that we hold, the states of consciousness. There's a lot that makes up us very complex human beings. And
Hmm.
none of it is none of it is bad or wrong. It's just about how do we bring it back into wholeness. Left and right is not one over the other. It's that sacred marriage, as Jung would say, with inside of ourselves that allows for greater expansion and wholeness across the whole, sacred geometry of who we are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you yeah, because there's so much depth to get into with everything. It's like pretty interesting, right? And
Yeah.
it all can be very helpful. And I think everybody is called to a certain, initiation or path, And so like some people, they're like, wow, that sounds like exactly the answer for me. I need to be looking at all this and
Mm.
I need a guide and I kind of get a sense of what you're saying. I don't mentally understand it, but I get a sense of what you're saying, and I don't know what that means. How are you going to work with me? How's that going to work? Right? Like it's all those questions would come to
Oh,
mind, and
asking those questions. Yeah, trying to problem solve the how.
right.
And it's a sense. It's a sense. It's a feeling. And so I have different opportunities for people to get a
Hmm.
taste, of course, if that's all right. I'll just share
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
now. So I do have a leadership capacity threshold assessment that I offer. If you want to come to my website, michelinegreen.com, and you can look up, I'll offer the link, of course. And women can do an assessment just to see, are they carrying too much? Are they at their capacity threshold? And that's a really great, it's a mirror. It's a way to look at yourself, to become more self-aware of, am I fraying at the edges, literally, right? Because I can't hold anymore. And so that's kind of a first look to see if this is the next move for me, and recognizing that I'm needing this identity upgrade, right? So
Hmm.
that's one way for women to come in. And another way is at my website again, I have a little master class called Awaken Your Spidey Senses. So I often talk about, drawing from grandmother spider. I do come from an indigenous lineage. I feel grandmother spider very deeply within me and the wisdom that she holds. And so awakening your spidey senses is about reconnecting with the intelligence of our bodies. So many of us think that we only have five senses, right? Right, and we do, but we never think about them. They're never conscious to us. So first things first is we bring more consciousness to the first five senses. Rudolf Steiner, he was the study creator of anthroposophy and the basis of Waldorf education and biodynamic farming. It's something that I studied years ago when I was working in the Waldorf schools. He talks about 12 senses. And then I went on and added three more. So there's 15 senses, both the physical, the subtle, and then the transpersonal. And it's a 1 hour recording that you can just listen to and get all of those senses and understand them. But then I break them down each one. So there's actually 15 recordings, and it's a practice that you could listen to one every day and put that into practice to bring that sense more into consciousness so you can reconnect more to yourself.
Nice. Oh, very nice. So that's fantastic. And I also know you have your book, which may be out already when people are listening, because people listen forever
Yes,
after it
yes.
comes out. So do you want to tell them anything about that for when it does come out, or if it's already out?
Sure, yeah. So it will be whenever this gets, whenever it goes live, the book should be out probably by August 2026, I think. It's
Hmm.
called Leadership Parenting: How to Release Control and Restore Connection. And it's specifically for purpose-driven women leaders who are mothering the future. And I'm very excited about it. It is really my life's work and putting it out there for everyone to take up, because I really believe that this is very important work right now as more and more women are stepping into positions of leadership, to not forget this very, very important role of mothering as well.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, as you develop yourself, and into uh, your awareness of all these different senses, and is you're becoming more whole, really. I mean, into that wholeness, like you're transmitting that to your kids. And often, you just say to any parent, like many of them, if they're conscious type of people, they're like, okay, I'll do it. Like that alone is very, compelling, like because it's true. You're imprinting on your kids, and no, we're never going to be perfect, right? So there's always going to be
No
like
such thing.
yeah, I
There's
mean, there's
no
the
such
perfect and the
thing.
imperfect and all that, right? But like, yeah, because we always, us people, women like that, because I could imagine, they're hard graders, right? They're hard graders on other people. They're hard graders on themselves, right? They grade themselves harder than anybody else, and then that trickles down. But as you take the edge off of some of that, and it's
Yeah.
like all of a sudden there's so much more. And look how much effortless that is to talk like the Wicked Witch, about eating your veggies or whatever, versus like, all right, I told you, you better eat your veggies. I remember having to eat my veggies with my parents one time, and I just sat there for 45 minutes crying, I think. Like, it sounds ridiculous to me as an adult, but like that, I just was like, no, like, I didn't have anybody, making it interesting or fun. Just eat the veggies. That's it. And you don't leave until you do. And those type of ideas. And so I feel like, yeah, there's so much effective techniques. Just even that one tip today, I think is really helpful for parenting is realize, because we were talking about that again on this other show, like just when you have fun, you just join in with your kids. Like, let's say they get snarky with you and you just kind of have fun with what they said. Like, Mom, just, you're just so this or that. You're right. I am all that. Yeah. Thank you. Like, and just going with it rather than like, how dare you speak to me like this, right? And then all of a sudden, yeah, they're shutting down, they're walking away from you, like that's the typical, right? Whereas if we get playful with everything, we take things more lightly. Like that's what I love, about what you do too. Like there's so much to dive into with what you've got to share. So I'll just say for now, I'll just say go take advantage of the resources. We'll put them in the show notes below and tell me about it if you want to. Like, and tell us how you like the episode in the comments. Subscribe, all the usual stuff, right? And share with us from your heart. What do you feel you gained through this episode today? And if you do go grab the stuff from her websites and whatnot. Feel free to come back and just share with people. Yeah, get it. It was great. It really helped me or whatever. We really love to hear about that. So, Micheline, we're going to give you the final word at the end. Anything you want to comment on that before we get into our next segment with the energy scanning?
No, I just appreciate what you're sharing, inviting people not only to go and try out, these free offerings that I have, but then come back and share it with others. I think that's just, you know, I always, there's that proverb, right? If you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, we got to go together. And this is
Mm,
where this sacred witnessing, right, that I do with my clients. I am an integral master coach, but I consider myself a strategic wisdom partner. It
mm-hmm,
really is about partnering and witnessing another through their transformation, which
mm-hmm.
is where the power truly lies. It's in us doing it together.
Right. Yeah, totally beautifully said. Okay, well, we're at the time of the show where we do the energy scan spotlight, and I'm going to be tuning in to you, Micheline. And so, yeah, I'll just get a couple of downloads. While I'm doing this, guys, listen, this is for you guys too, because it's just so cool. Like, people always tell me they gain something from it in the audience. At least most people do. So, I mean, there may be something in these messages that come through for you as well. So listen in. And you'll learn more about her too. Isn't that cool? That's fun. Build awareness of everything. So, okay, Selena, are you ready to receive?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, well, I'll just take a moment to tune in here and then I'll share what's coming through. Yeah, I'm just observing and just taking a look, and it's a very interesting image that it's presenting, the tuning in, and it's yeah, I get a lot. It's the part of the layer of energy I'm looking at right now is the one that is with the tension and holds the sense of yeah the sense of wanting to control, so wanting to hang on, wanting to be tight or whatever, and kind of I get it in like an executioner kind of energy. Get it right or else, right? So yes, again, just because I'm tuning in, this doesn't mean like, okay, I've evolved, with this part or whatever. Like, yeah, yeah, of course you have, but like, so there's that part, and but within that too is also I was hearing like it's not just like the things that have happened in your life, like sexual abuse or whatever, but like it's also like they only knew all what's going on in here. Like it's sort of like that. Like it for better and worse. Like they don't understand my capacities. They don't understand this. They don't understand that. So like there's so much you that of that. Like that's not. So that's why the work you do is so fascinating too, because like you're in a constant discovery of yourself, right? Like I didn't even know this about me yet, right? And that's what your clients are experiencing. So I think like there's so much, it's like there's the vastness within this energy that I was seeing. We get past like the sense of the negativity, what I said, like it's not that. It's like the sense of spaciousness and like there's so much to explore and there's a tension in that because it hadn't been explored. And now there's more liberation happening through that for you and for everybody that are in that same sort of an archetype of energy. Like, I feel like I'm in prison. Like you're gonna just keep persecuting me, and you don't listen to me, and like now as the more layers come, man, I'm listening to myself more. Wow, everything's working better now because we're not even listening to ourselves enough, right? So that's the whole mirror thing. Anyway, so that's the first download. I'm gonna give you just one more, and then we'll have you reflect on what came through. Just one moment. Okay, and then there's like we're connected to so many different energies. What's closer, in some people's fields are different things though. And so for you, there's also interesting what you were saying about your background, but I get a grandmother kind of transmission in your energy, um, like that elder sort of energy, maybe like just like, and it's a sweetness. It's a sweet energy. So it's interesting, right? There's a sense of a dichotomy, but like both exist. So it's like, oh, of course, you want to do that? No problem. It's interesting because people might think like, what's the deal? What's your deal? You're like, it's no problem, everything's fine. Then another part's like, wait a minute. Like, it's like that. Like we get insistent, right? Um, so you've got both. You've got like the spaciousness transmission, to be like, hey, maybe you need to go learn about that, right? Or, like letting go and letting people have their experiences. And so that is in your field, like just more naturally as well. Like it's always sort of been in there. But then the parts that's scared, and the tension part might take over. But so this is true for you. This is true for other people listening in their own ways. It's all metaphorical, guys. You look at it that way. Don't take it too seriously. So anyway, so those are some of the things that were coming through when I was tuning in. I hope they, are resonated some level.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Any quick reflections on any of that?
Well, I can definitely say that, the grandmother aspect, right? I did mention grandmother spider, which is metaphoric, archetype that I work with a great deal. I'm not a grandma yet, but I definitely am in my crone era and
Mhm.
embracing that more and more. And that spaciousness of it is ultimately up to every single one of us. We're all just walking each other home to ourselves. And so the answers are not going to be found outside with more books and more trainings and more courses and more teachings and more whatever. All of the answers are guiding you back home to yourself. And so
Mhm.
with the work that I do, it is spacious. It
Mhm.
is, allowing each and every individual to find those answers deep within themselves. I just hold up the mirror and ask really powerful questions.
Nice. Okay, well, fantastic. So, everybody, if you want to go ahead and check out more about the work that I do, you can go to yoursacredpurpose.com. I do have a free meditate, make money meditation that helps open up your energy, helps you get downloads as well around, what might want to happen in your business, especially for those of you that are in businesses, and to hear your guides. So check that out. You also get on my notification list if I'm doing some energy scanning and those sorts of things. Like you'll be invited to those opportunities. And also, I do train people to do this energy scanning method. So you'll also learn about that as those opportunities continue to be available. If you want to get an energy scan for me, if you want to get tune in, you'll find that on my website as well. So it's all at yoursacredpurpose.com. All right, so Micheline, I'm going to give you the last words for the show. So, yeah, anything you'd like to share?
I just appreciate you, Daniel. Thank you for your enthusiasm and your great big heart. I know you've been doing this work a long time, and the more we have people out there in the world who are promoting greater love, not just love as a feeling, but ultimately it's how do we be love in action every day,
Mhm.
in every moment. That's how we transform the world. So, thank you.
My pleasure. And I'm grateful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
And thanks to all our listeners. Like I always say, keep on tuning in and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till the next time. For listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.